Hi, I'm Allie Priest, and this is my research on Does America Have a Gun Problem? Political party differences. In many cases, there has always been differences in two political parties. When it comes to gun violence, political factions have different views on what to do next. Two political two policies that would restrict access to guns garner clear majority supporting from Republicans and Democrats, preventing those with mental illness from purchasing guns and subjecting private gun laws, gun sales, and gun show sales to background checks. From the article, A Series of Mass Shootings in the U.S., it is factual that both dissenting groups agreed there is a needed change for gun violence in America. Political party differences. Americans are once again debating whether the country needs stronger regulations on guns. After the Uvalde school shooting that left 21 people dead, Texas Democrats are once again urging state leaders to enact gun control measures to help prevent tragedies in the future. In response to many school shootings, public officials from both political parties go head to head. A Democratic official says Governor Abbott has done nothing in saying the mass shooting was totally predictable. The party's candidate for lieutenant governor was blamed for Dan Patrick loosening gun laws in the state instead of tightening them after previous mass shootings. Understanding the problem. Republican Party. In my understanding of the research of the Republican Party, is that they feel if stricter gun laws were applied in the future, their guns will be taken away. This party believes there should not be an amendment to the Bill of Rights, but instead there should be a more outreach in the community for mental health education. The Democratic Party. From this party's beliefs, they want to protect our kids, not our guns. Due to research, the Democratic group wants to limit the use of guns and construct more laws to prevent gun violence. Both parties agree there needs to be restrictions on mental health, background checks, and firearm training, but their opposing opinions keep them from coming to common ground. Americans' thoughts. Students across the United States have been affected by gun violence. In 2020 alone, more than 4,300 children died from firearms, and many of today's youth have grown up practicing active shooter drills in school. According to the article, Responding in Gun Violence, in this day of age, teachers who are supposed to be nurturers are now on the front lines to protect our kids. Due to the outbreak of gun violence, people are skeptical on what to do next. I believe we should not put the teachers on the front lines of the madness, but instead having a law official in every school to bring shooters down. What actions is there to end gun violence? From the article Responding to Gun Violence, to keep our students safe in our schools and our community, we must limit the access to in the first place, providing universal background checks, banning assault-style weapons, passing red flags laws, and other legislation. From the Pew Research Center, there was a graph listed in the article that stated broad support for barring people with mental illness from obtaining guns, expanded background checks. My findings within the graph states that U.S. citizens have different thoughts about the new incoming proposed legislation about gun control. Other laws listed in the graph were banning assault-style weapons, allowing teachers and school officials to carry guns, and creating a federal government database to track all gun sales. Americans' thoughts. Many people from rural areas are more further controversial leaning and feel that further restrictions will not affect the occurrence of mass shootings at all. Most would argue that the reason we have mass shootings is more of a mental health problem. 28% of adults who live in suburbs, and even fewer, don't own guns, according to Pew Research Center. From the article, What the Amazing Racial Disparities in Gun Violence Could Teach Us About Gun Control, the most interesting statistic is that high homicide rates come from a population with much lower rate of gun ownership. Roughly 41% of white households own guns compared to just 19% of black households. In other words, when it comes to guns, white and black Americans live different lives. White Americans don't experience much criminal gun violence, but they have much greater experience with guns. Widespread gun ownership doesn't lead to criminal carnage, so fear-based gun control arguments simply don't ring true. Teachers' thoughts about school shootings. According to the BYU study, since 1970, there has been 1,924,000 incidents involving the firing of a firearm on school property, with a total of 637 people losing their lives. Teacher Lauren from Dallas stated, "Check on your teacher friends. We are not okay. Getting shot at should not be an occupational hazard for teachers and definitely not for students. We aren't even paid livable wage, yet every single one of us goes above and beyond for our kids every day. And I guarantee every single teacher would lay down their lives for their students if it came down to it." Teachers in today's age are not okay. They live in constant fear of a shooter coming in and taking the life of themselves or one of their students. Educators should not live in fear from a mentally ill person who could end the lives of their students or themselves. And that is my presentation over, does America have a gun violence problem?